I shall I shall announce this evening's program, which is none other than, well, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, an assembled company, welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe. And tonight, it's Friday, is the last Friday before Christmas. In fact, is it's stories for children by none other than the one and only. There is only one, Rona Baba. Right, take it away, Rona.
Thank you, John. Oh, I love that introduction. Very good. Excellent. Yeah, well, this is one of my favorite things to do in the whole world, is to tell Christmas stories. So I'm looking forward to it very much. And I think I'm going to start with telling you. Oh, I know. I said I would tell the Snow Queen. This is a story that I did. It's David Heathfield asked me to do one of the stories that the Gaza kids were telling. They have just been fantastic, those children. It's absolutely amazing how they've done with storytelling in a language that's not even theirs. You know, it's just remarkable. So this is a story that I got from a young girl called Noor. It is a traditional story, the Snow Queen, but she's changed it around somewhat. So just let me catch up on that. Yes. Well, there was this young couple. That's my son, by the way, who's guzzling his face there. Stephen, put your camera off while you're eating. Thank you. You're distracting
Yes,
me.
mummy.
Yes, mummy. He's distracting me. Okay. So, yeah, David Heathfield introduced me to this young girl, Noor, who told this story. And not only did she tell it so well, and I know you have heard it, John, I know you've heard her tell it, because not only did she tell the story so well, her side effects were absolutely fantastic. I mean, that was the young girl that had all the this, that, and the other going on with while she was telling the story, and it was just amazing. And in that respect, I'm not going to be able to do that, but I hope I do a good enough job of telling the story for you to enjoy it anyway. So there was Gerda and there was Kai. These were two youngsters who lived next door to each other. They were in their early teens and they were very good friends and had been all their lives. They were devoted to growing flowers in their front gardens, quite an unusual thing for young teenagers to want to do. But that was their hobby. And with it being Christmas, they wanted to do Christmas roses. So they had grown all these Christmas roses and they were taking them round to all their neighbours and friends who were delighted to be receiving them. And when they had done that task, they decided that they deserved a little treat. And they were going to go to Grandma's house to hear a story. Well, Kai was not a happy bunny. As soon as Gerda stepped over the doorstep, she said, Grandma, we've come for a story, and I know the story that I want to tell. I want you to tell the Snow Queen. And Kai said, oh, no, not that again. The Snow Queen, I mean, she doesn't even exist. It's a load of rubbish. Well, unfortunately for him, the Snow Queen was actually watching and listening to what was going on, because remember, she lives in the ice palace. She can see everything going on everywhere all over the world, and she can hear everything. So she was not best pleased. Doesn't believe in me, doesn't believe I exist. I'll have to teach that young man a lesson. I'll teach him a lesson he'll never forget. I'll use my ice arrows on him. Well, these ice arrows were invisible, but they were deadly. And when she fired those ice arrows off, they landed in Grandma's living room. And they found Kai, one right in his heart and one right in his eye. And he just fell to the floor like a stone. But thankfully, he wasn't dead. You would think he would be, but he wasn't. And he scrambled up again, and Gerda tried to help him, and she couldn't believe, she thought he was dead. But no, he came round. He ran from the house to his own house, and Gerda never saw him again for several days. She would go every day and ask Kai's mother, is he coming out today? And she would say, no, I'm sorry, he's still not very well. Oh, Gerda was very worried. So was her grandmother. What on earth could have caused this? There was no visible signs, you see. The Ice Queen is very clever. There were no visible signs. These arrows had pierced him invisibly, and then there was nothing except that his heart wasn't working properly and he couldn't see out of one eye. She carried on tending the flowers, and one day when she had finished, she couldn't believe her eyes when she turned round and saw a huge white carriage galloping along the road. It was being driven by 4 white horses and sat up there she had never seen the Ice Queen or the Snow Queen, but she didn't have to. She recognised as soon as she saw this that that's who it was. It was the Snow Queen. And she called on Kai. And Kai came running out the door and up onto that carriage as if he had never had anything wrong with him. And that carriage took off. And Gerda tried to run after it. She tried to catch it, but of course she couldn't. It was too fast. So she ran back to her grandmother. Grandmother, you'll never believe it. Kai's been taken by the Snow Queen. I saw her. She came in her carriage and she just disappeared. Well, the look on her grandma's face, she was furious. She did what? She took Kai. Oh, we'll see about that, she said. And she took from her pocket a mirror, because she also had a mirror that could see everything that was going on and hear everything that was going on. But Gerda's grandmother chose not to use that in the same way. I can tell you now, you've probably guessed, Gerda's grandmother and the Snow Queen were sisters, but they didn't speak to each other. They lived totally different lives. Gerda's grandmother thought in some way that this was to annoy her. She had taken Kai, or to annoy her granddaughter. But she gave her granddaughter that mirror and she said, you go and you find him and you bring him back. Oh, Grandma, do you think I can? Do you think? She said, I know you can. You are strong enough. You are clever enough. You can do this, but be very careful, because the Ice Queen can be quite evil. She never told Gerda that it was her sister. Only we know that at this moment in time. Well, our grandmother said, I've given you this mirror. All you have to do when you need me is turn that over in your hand and look in it and say, Grandma, and I will be there. And you can show me what the situation is. And if you need help, I'll tell you how you can get it. First of all, I will tell you, you will meet the flower lady, and then you will meet a ship's captain. That ship will be grounded. It won't be on the water, but that ship's captain will be able to help you if you need help. She packed some delicious food into a bag for Gerda and some fresh water. And Gerda set off. She didn't feel very confident. Oh, she did not feel confident at all. In fact, she was really scared. But she wanted more than anything to save her Kai. Well, sure enough, the first person that she came across, after having walked for several miles, was the flower lady. And the reason she was called the flower lady was because the place was absolutely surrounded with flowers. Every possible kind that you could imagine, every variety, tulips, roses, daisies, you name it. But there was something that was very strange. There was no perfume. There was no aroma for these flowers. And Gerda was quite taken aback by this. And then the flower lady appeared and she said, oh, hello. Can I help you? And Gerda says, well, my grandmother said you might be able to help me because I'm trying to find the Snow Queen. She has taken my friend and I have to bring him back. The Snow Queen? Oh, yes. I know where you can find her, but do you really want to? She can be very evil. She's a dangerous woman. I've got to, said Gerda, I've got to find my Kai. Well, she gave her some instructions and she followed the instructions to the letter, but before she left, she turned to the flower lady and she said, "Can I ask you why your flowers don't have any perfume?" And she said, "That was one of the things that the Ice Queen did to punish me. She took the perfume from my flowers." Oh, that's dreadful. And as she spoke, she turned the mirror over and she showed it to her grandmother. And she said, "Grandmother, these flowers have no perfume. Is there anything we can do?" And her grandmother says, "Take your finger and place it on the top of one of those petals in the flowers nearest to you." And she did. And there was like a puff of kind of mist that just spread very quickly. And minutes later, the air was filled with the absolutely beautiful perfume of all of these flowers. So the flower lady was amazed. She was delighted. And Gerda said, "Well, that's a thank you for you helping me to find the Snow Queen." And the flower lady said, "I'm not sure that I want you to find the Snow Queen, but you seem determined to find your friend, so I wish you luck." And off she went. And again, it was quite a few miles away again that she found the ship's captain. And sure enough, it was a ship, a whole ship, sat there on the ground. And she didn't like to say anything about this to the captain. So she approached him and she said to him, "Are you the captain of this ship?" And he said, "Yes, I am." He said, "That's why my hat says captain." And she felt a wee bit silly because she had noticed that. She didn't know why she'd said that. She felt a little bit silly. She says, "I can read, you know." He said, "Oh, I don't doubt it. You look like a bright young girl to me. How can I help you?" She says, "Well, my grandma told me that you might be able to help me to find the Snow Queen." "Your grandma?" "Oh, I see. Well, I can help you to find the Snow Queen, but I'm not sure that I want to," which is exactly what the flower lady said, because they know who this person is and they know that she's evil. Not very keen to send a young girl. And she says, "I've got to go because I've got to find Kai." So she set off. And sure enough, when she got to the place where the ship's captain had told her, where the two huge pine trees stood side by side, and they were covered in snow and ice. But when you looked through the gap between those two trees, there was this magnificent castle. She'd found it. But now fear was beginning to take over. She was beginning to worry about what these people said. But no, she wasn't going to stop. She wasn't going to give up. She was going to find her Kai. She carried on. And when she got to that castle, it was so overwhelming. It was just incredible. It was built from solid ice, and everything in it was made of solid ice. But it wasn't cold. How strange. And as she put her hand up to push the door open, she expected it to be cold, but it wasn't. And the door opened easily into a great hall. And Gerda walked into this hall and she looked around. There was nothing, there was nobody. It was just a big empty space. So she began to investigate a little bit further. And she heard a slight sound. And she turned the corner, and there, sitting in the opposite corner, was Kai. And he was bound. And he was gagged. So he couldn't speak, but when he saw her, his eyes lit up. And he tried to speak. And she ran over to him. And she held him, she hugged him, and she held him. And she started to unwind the ties that were holding him. And she touched his cheek. And it started to melt the ice away from his face because he was covered in ice. And at that point, the Snow Queen appeared. "How dare you step away from him? He's mine. He will always be mine. He will be frozen here forever. And Gerda said, no, he won't. He's coming home with me. Remember, she was only 14 years old. But she was so strong and she was so brave. And she had her grandmother's mirror. And she turned her hand round again, and she turned the mirror, and she turned it towards the Snow Queen, who, when she looked in that mirror, she saw Gerda's grandmother. And when she saw her, she let out a yelp, and then all of a sudden, she started to melt, and she melted away completely until there was only a puddle left on the floor where she had been. She helped Kai to his feet, and they embraced, and all of a sudden he was warm again, and all of a sudden he could see out of both eyes, and his heart was beating, and he said, Gerda, I'm fine, I'm okay. She said, yes, and we're going home. And they started to run, and they didn't stop running until they were exhausted. And they stopped and had a rest. And they weren't far from the flower lady at this point. And Gerda said, we have to turn back. What do you mean we have to turn back? No, we can't. No, I don't mean we're going back to the Ice Queen's castle, but I have to go back and thank the ship's captain. I promised him that I would. I promised him that I would bring you to meet him, because one of the reasons that he was there on his own was because he had no friends. Now he's going to have 2 new friends. It didn't take that long, and Kai was glad that they did that, because when they met the ship's captain, he told Kai a thing or two about being in the sea, being in the fleet sea and going anywhere he wanted to go in the world. And Gerda looked at him and she said, don't even think about it. You're not going anywhere without me. When they got to the flower lady, they thanked her again. But it was when they got back home to her grandma that Gerda and Kai could really relax and feel safe again. I think I can see in the future what's going to happen with you two. And they looked at each other and smiled. And I think we know as well, don't we? I think before I tell you what happened next, I'm going to tell you that Gerda asked her mother about the Snow Queen. She said, Grandma, does that mean the Snow Queen has gone forever? And her grandmother looked at her and she said, no, she'll be back. But then we know that Gerda and Kai lived happily ever after, tending their beautiful flowers and giving them to all the neighbours, especially at Christmas time. Merry Christmas. So, I'm going to tell you another wee story, and a couple of you will have heard this because I tell this story every year. It's one of my favourite Christmas stories. I wrote this for one of my grandchildren, and it's been a firm favourite ever since. Well, when Christmas time comes along, all that children have to think about is what would they like for Christmas? Toys, it's always toys, isn't it? Well, this particular year, the favourite toy was a Tiny Tears doll for girls and an Action Man for boys. And they sold out very quickly. Well, I used to have a toy shop, you know. Not a lot of people know that, only the people that have heard this story. I had a toy shop in Edinburgh on the high street. But it was just a kind of stopgap before I decided whether or not I was going to become a storyteller once and for all, forever and ever. And as it happened, fate played a hand in this because the shop's lease was going to be up. And although I might have considered carrying on for a little while, I couldn't, because the man who owned it wanted to take it back, because he was going to turn it into, of all things, a bar and restaurant, which the town needed. So I was selling the shop, and all the toys had been getting sold that year, and nothing else was being brought in. So when this man came into the shop all agitated and really, almost crying, please tell me you've got one. I said, well, if you tell me what it is, I might be able to tell you that I've got one. Oh, my little girl has asked Father Christmas for a tiny tears, and I can't find one anywhere. Oh, no, she said. They've been sold out for weeks. But I had one in the back shop. I had one with somebody's name on it, my daughter's name, because that's what she wanted. However, my sister knew that that's what she wanted, and when she found one in Argyle Street in Glasgow, she bought it, and she rang me to tell me. So this was in a box on the shelf in the back cupboard. And I took it out and I showed it. His name was Doyle, Mr. Doyle. Because these toys, these little dolls came with either dark hair or blonde hair, or they could be white, or they could be black, or they could be Chinese. I think there was 3 or 4 different versions, and each little girl had their idea of the one they wanted. And his little girl had wanted the one with brown skin and black hair. And that's what my daughter wanted. That was what was in that box. So this man was absolutely delighted. And he paid for that doll. And then I put his name on the box. And I handed it to him. He said, no, I'm not taking it. He says, my daughter will tear this house apart trying to find parcels. She does it every year. I want this to be a surprise. I don't want her to know that she's got it until Father Christmas has been and left it under the Christmas tree. So off he went, and that was fine. Well, we ran the shop down, as I told you, and at the end, on Christmas Eve, my husband gathered up the few things that were left. There wasn't a lot, and he put them in the boot of the car, and he took them to the Children's Hospital in Edinburgh. And when he came back, we were all ready to go. But, that box was still there. And Mr. Doyle hadn't come back for it. He promised to come back. It was the day before Christmas Eve that he bought it. This was a day later, and he hadn't turned up. And I was getting really worried. And I said to my husband, I can't leave now. I'll need to wait and see if this man comes for this doll. For goodness sake. I said, no, come on. I says, we'll have to, I've sold him the thing. And I told him I would keep it for him. So I've got to do that. My husband left then with the dog and got back to the house for the kids coming in from school. They weren't even at proper school. They were at, when you can go in and have fun for a week when school's actually closed. You can go and play games and do jigsaws or draw or whatever you wanted to do. And they wanted for nothing. So what we had for our kids to put under the Christmas tree was exactly what they had asked for. So for once on Christmas Eve, I could breathe a sigh of relief because that was all fixed and it was all packed up. Mr. Doyle still hadn't come. If only I had thought to be smart enough. I'm supposed to be smart, but it never dawned on me to put. We lived on the high street, the same street that the shop was on, the same street that the police station was on. My husband was a policeman. So instead of putting a note on the door saying, please call at number 47 High Street, I didn't. I just closed the door and locked it and went home. And then I started pacing around the place. I always cook my turkey on Christmas Eve. So I started to cook my turkey. Okay. Right, I've got an hour. I'll go and have another wee. And my husband said, where are you going? I said, I'm just going to check. He said, you're going back to the shop, aren't you? I said, well, I can't believe that man's not going to come for that doll. It just cannot happen. I know he wouldn't have found another one. Oh, for goodness sake. He said, okay, so off I went. And I waited for about half an hour and it was getting dark. It was about 5:45 at this point. And I thought, He's not coming. I better go home. And I had all these things going round in my mind. What could possibly have happened to stop that man? I wish I had asked him where he lived and I would have delivered the thing myself. Well, no. So I went home. I had a very restless night. At 9 o'clock at night, I went walking to the shop with the dog. Even the dog looked surprised because I didn't normally take him for a walk. That was a daddy job. But I took him for a walk so I could go past the shop and see if there was any signs of him having been there. What signs could there possibly be? I thought to myself, maybe he would leave a note. I don't know. I didn't tell him I lived at number 41 the High Street. You know, you learn a lot as you get older, but you also forget a lot. Anyway, that was it. I had tried again and I had to finally accept the fact that he wasn't coming. I had a very restless night. And when I woke up in the morning, it was at 4 o'clock in the morning with my children climbing all over the bed. He's been. We've got the presents. I know you've got the presents. I wrapped them up. So, of course, I didn't say that, did I? And the next thing is, I'm taking the dog for a walk. My husband said, "What are you doing?" And even again, the dog looked so surprised. "Mummy, you taking me for a walk?" And I walked up to the shop. That's what you do. When you've got something, if you've got an unfinished job, you try and see it through. I didn't see any sign of Mr. Doyle. What I saw was 2 black bags sitting in the porch. And I knew I hadn't put them there. The shop was completely empty now and the rubbish had been taken away and taken to the dump. Where did these black bags come from? And as I got closer, the dog got very excited. The bags were moving. And one of them stood up and a head popped out the top. "I told you she would come," it said, and he turned and this other wee head popped up. This was 2 little boys. One was about, I would have said, 7 years old, and the other one was about 3. "I told you she would come." And I looked at this little face of the wee boy that I thought was about 3. And he had 2 clean streaks down his wee dirty face where he had been crying. And I said, "Oh, what's the matter, sweetheart?" And the older boy chimed in with, "Santa didn't bring him anything. So my dad sent me to you with this." And he had 3, this is how long ago it was 3 paper pound notes, right? Of to get something for him because Santa didn't bring him nout. Ooh. This wee boy had got nothing from Father Christmas. I said, "I haven't got anything, sweetheart." I said, "I'm sorry, but, you know, the shop, there's nothing left." He said, "What's that box up there in that shelf?" And you could see in, obviously, the windows, there was nothing in the windows now, and the door was glass door, and they saw that box on the shelf. I said, "Oh, that's somebody else's." I said, "They haven't come back to collect it yet." He said, "Well, it's a bit late, isn't it?" This boy was really smart. He said, "It's not going to be much good to them now. Can I not buy that for my wee brother?" I said, "Well, actually, it's not really a wee boy present. It's something for a wee girl." He says, "It doesn't matter as long as it's a present." I said, "Well, it's a doll. Do you think he'd want a doll?" He said, "Yeah, he could tell her all his worries." I was like, oh, I was gobsmacked. He could tell her all his worries. Yeah, right, sure. I thought, what do I do now? And there was nothing else I could do. I had to bring that box down. I went in, opened the door, and the boys came in with me. And the dog went in, and he ran through and was looking for his bed. So he was all confused because his bed wasn't there anymore. So he used to lie in the shop and sleep while I was looking after him. Well, when I took that box down, 2 things happened. One, I was shocked because when I wrapped it up, I wrapped it with green paper with red stars, red Christmas trees rather, and then red paper with green Christmas trees. And there was a red bow on the top. And I knew that it should have been a green bow, But I didn't argue with myself. I thought, you've been under a bit of stress. It's Christmas week. You've got that mixed up. So this boy, as I'm talking, he's ripping the paper off. He's dead excited to open this box and let his wee brother see this doll. Now, anybody who saw the Tiny Tears dolls back in the day, and there's been other toys that were like this, the boxes, the bottom of the box was exactly the same as the top of the box, except it was just ever so slightly bigger, so it could slide right over the top of the box. And it had a perspex front, halfway. It had a perspex front, so you could see which doll it was. Was it the blonde doll, or was it the dark-haired doll? Or was it the Chinese doll? This doll could cry and wet its nappy because you fed it water. It was a big, big hit, that doll. And when I looked, I had seen quite clearly that it was the doll with the brown skin and the brown hair. Beautiful little doll. But that's not what I saw. I saw shredded newspaper. I thought, what? So I lifted the box lid and it did that sound. You know that fabulous sound when the two that have been squeezed together go, and the wee boy got so excited. Oh, he was just like, oh. And I looked and saw all this shredded newspaper and I thought, oh, what on earth is in this box? And the boy's name was Joseph, the older brother. He starts tearing this paper out. And then he looked at me as if I was the devil incarnate. He said, you've got them. I said, I've got what? And I leaned over and there was the smallest pair of roller skates I've ever seen in my life in that box. I said, I don't know where they came from. There was a doll in that box. Aye, right, he said. The 7-year-old boy, aye, right. He said, that's what he asked Father Christmas for. And you've got them. I said, no, I don't have anything to do with these. There was a doll in that box. The look that boy gave me, I felt as if my skin was getting peeled off. Oh, I said, look, son, I don't know what this. He said, can we give him the skates, please? I said, yeah, of course. And this wee boy kicked his wellies off, this little one who was Sam, by the way. Sam took his wellies off. He had no socks on. Oh. So I took off my boots and I took off my socks and I put them on his legs. They came all the way up to his thighs. And then we tied the skates on. They were a little bit big. We buckled them up and then I took one finger and Joseph took the other finger and we let him skate up and down the shop a few times. And the squeals of delight from that child will live with me forever. But so also will the stares from his brother. He did not believe me for 1 minute that there had been a doll in that box. And there's no way I could convince him. But when those two boys walked out of that door with that box under the big brother's arm with the skates in it, and that wee boy with his wellies back on top of my socks, I was happy to see, give them away, keep his feet warm. I went after him, I said, Joseph, take that money back for your dad and he can buy Sam a present in another toy shop. He said, no, he'll buy us Christmas dinner. I said, oh, that's good. I'm so happy. And he started to walk off again. And then he turned and he looked at me. And I thought, no, I'm not letting this go. Joseph, I said, come here a minute, son. And he came back. I says, what is it? And he's got Sam by the hand. I says, do you know what happened today? He said, yeah. He says, my wee brother's skates were in that box in your shop. That's why Santa couldn't bring them. I said, well, let me tell you something. There was a wee girl in this town somewhere who wanted a Tiny Tears doll. And when she opened the wrappings, it was a box for roller skates. And she was quite upset until she lifted the lid off the box and found her Tiny Tears. Really? I said, yeah. I said, that's how it works. I says, have you never heard of a Christmas miracle? He said, no, no. Is that really what happened? I said, that's what happened, Joseph. And for the first time, he smiled. And that's 3 things that will live with me forever. Sam's face when he saw those roller skates. Joseph's face when he thought I had taken those skates in some way, shape, or form. And then Joseph's smile when he believed that there really had been a Christmas miracle. Thank you. And just to finish off, I'll tell you a story about one of my Christmases, my very early Christmas when I was 5 years old. We were poor. We were really quite poor. Stephen's heard these stories so many times. Are you enjoying it, son? Yeah, good. Well, when I was about 5 years old, my baby brother hadn't been born. Some of you know him, Michael. He was still in my mum's tummy, and he was going to be born sometime. And I was all upset because we didn't have a Christmas tree. Mammy, it's 5 o'clock and it's Christmas Eve and we've got no Christmas tree. Actually, I'm sorry, it was 4 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock and we've got no Christmas tree, and Father Christmas doesn't come to a house if it's got no tree. And my mum said, well, that's not true, sweetheart, but don't you worry, there'll be a tree. That's Daddy's job. But Mammy, it's 4 o'clock and there's no tree. Mammy, where is it? She said, don't worry, there'll be a tree. I couldn't handle this, so I went outside and I got the mop bucket and I brought it back in. And I turned the brush upside down in the mop bucket and I put bricks round it to hold it. And it was so exciting. I put the colander, my mummy's stainless steel colander, on top of this brush. It looked ridiculous, but I thought it was fabulous. And I tied a coat hangers from that, and then I tied some coat hangers round this brush. And I was just so happy. We had decorations, so I started putting different things on it, and I put some tinsel on it. And the next thing, the door bursts open, and my oldest sister, who was a very young school teacher then, she was just in her first year of teaching, she breezed into the living room and stopped in her tracks. What is that? I said, it's my Christmas tree. Christmas tree, she said, that's an absolute, no, that's got to go. I'm sorry. Her boyfriend was coming for tea that night, her soon-to-be husband. Well, a couple of years later, he became her husband. Mammy, she's got this thing out here. It's absolutely outrageous. She's got the brush turned upside down in the mop pail, and she's got things hanging from it. You know, tinsel, and it looks ridiculous. And my mum said, does she like it? Well, I suppose so. I do like it, Mummy. I do like it. She says, well, it'll do for the meantime until the tree arrives. What if no tree arrives? We can't have that. Terry's coming for tea. She said, well, Terry will have to like it as well then, won't he? Oh, Mammy, please, I'm so embarrassed. Please don't do this. Oh, Mum. Next thing, my oldest brother comes in. Oh, wow, what you got there? I'm vegan. I said, that's my Christmas tree. Do you like it? And he looked at my sister's face. He said, I love it. And he only said that because he knew my sister hated it and she would be raging. So my mummy said, just don't bother fighting over this tree. It stays till the new one comes. Oh, Mammy, if only you could see it. Every now and again, my mother would utter a sentence that would just stop us in our tracks. She said, yes, I wish I could see it. But I can hear the laughter in my wee girl's face, everything she put on it. And that'll do for me. It stays till your daddy brings a tree. But Daddy's not even home yet. When your daddy comes, he'll get us a tree. I don't know how, but he'll get you a tree. He's never failed me yet, and he won't fail me tonight. And the next thing we heard all this singing. Not just a few kids, like a lot of kids singing, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw him, you would even say it glowed. I ran to the window, and I could not believe my eyes. We were on the 3rd floor of a tenement building, and when I looked down, by the way, it was snowing. We had a white Christmas that year just to make it absolutely perfect. My daddy was walking up the street with a Christmas tree over his shoulder. Well, those of you who know us well know that my daddy was blind, but he wouldn't use a white stick because he knew every single step. He was only 300 yards away from his work at the blind asylum, as they called it. And across the road then, this was before supermarkets, by the way, for you youngsters there, Erica and Tahi and Lucy. There was no supermarkets, there was the greengrocers, and my dad had gone in and said to him, are you there, Sammy? He said, aye, I'm here, Tommy. He said, have you got a Christmas tree in here? I said, aye, that I have. He says, and have you got one at home as well? I said, aye, sure, I've got one at home. He says, well, can I buy this one and take it home because I've not got one yet for my wains? There'll be a lot of disappointment if I've not got a tree. And Sammy Devine said, take it, Tommy, with my blessing. You don't need to buy it. It'll save me having to get rid of it when I come back after the holidays. That's very kind of you, Sammy. I accept that with much gratitude. And he also gave my dad a box of fruit. There was apples and oranges and bananas and grapes. And there was also a pineapple. I had never seen a pineapple in my life. I could not believe it. Wow, a real pineapple. It took pride of place on the dinner table that Christmas Day. The Christmas tree was brought upstairs. It had still had all the decorations on it. It was absolutely fabulous. So some of ours got added to it, and the Christmas lights came out, and my big brother put them on, and it was just, everything was fabulous. In the meantime, I had taken the mop pail back and chucked it out and chucked the brush outside beside it. They lived at the back door outside. And everything was fine and dandy on Christmas Day. And we were all talking about this pineapple, who was going to cut it, who would have a bit first. You know, there was a whole big hierarchy went on in my family. And everything was just wonderful until my mother said, has anybody seen the colander? It was outside with a mop pail. That's my Christmas tree story. So, guys, has anybody got, do you know what I'm getting for my Christmas? A new granddaughter. She hasn't arrived yet. She was due on the 13th of December and she's still not here. So I cannot wait. I'm waiting for a phone call every day. I'm desperate to see her arrival. That'll be great. Thank you, Erica, for the hearts. I'm very excited because you know my son Adam. Yeah, it's him that's his Chloe is having the baby. So, would anybody have like to say anything, or anybody know any Christmas jokes? Baba C, yeah.
You know, I've heard both of your stories before, and I never tire of hearing you tell that tale. And you remind me, when I was much younger, there was a lady who was a poet of some repute in Washington, D.C. Her last name was Barbour.
Really?
And yeah, and she was the mother to one of my best friends.
Wow.
So I'm having flashbacks, and I'm enjoying your stories. May the tale be with you forever and a day.
Thank you.
That
Well,
was fantastic, Rona.
oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it, John. The reason I tell them is because, I mean, we wouldn't know about Cinderella if it wasn't told and retold. Do you know what I mean? These things, it's very important for children to have something to latch on to in tradition-wise,
I
especially
think
for
so.
times like Christmas. Yeah. So,
So, so what have we got coming up? I think a round of applause before we go any further for the amazing
Yep.
Rona.
thank you.
Fantastic. Louis, did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah.
Yep. Marvelous, marvelous. So, what are we coming up in the season of goodwill? So, we've got Sunday. We have our worldwide story round where anyone is welcome to come and tell a story or a poem. And that's Sunday. Everything's at 6 o'clock. I can't handle being confused and having other time at the moment. So, and Christmas Eve, the 24th, which is Wednesday, 6 o'clock again, Jim Brawl is hosting Stories for Peace. David
Oh,
Heathfield,
Jim's great. Yeah. Yeah.
and so anyone who wants to come on and tell a story then connected with the title Stories for Peace.
Put yourself.
Sorry, I thought you.
Yes. You're not muted, Lucy. We can hear you fighting in the car.
Yeah, we're having an argument. I just put the video on, and I thought Mike wanted the video on because I thought he was going to say something, but he
Well,
didn't.
of course, Mike is welcome to say something. Mike, say something.
Merry Christmas, everybody!
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Kwanzaa.
Merry Christmas,
Christmas.
if you can hear me.
Kwanzaa. Yeah.
So I'm talking of Kwanzaa on the 26th, and if you're in Britain, that's Boxing Day. None other than Baba C himself is coming on and telling stories for Kwanzaa. So I've had stories for Christmas from Rona today. We're having stories for Kwanzaa next Friday, and in between we're having a worldwide story round and a stories for peace. What a marvelous lead up to what a wonderful bunch of seasonal events.
Absolutely fantastic. And I always kick myself for coming on last week, the one before Christmas, because I should know better. People are too busy to come on and listen.
Well, no, you've got quite a good crowd these days.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm so
Yeah,
happy
turn
with
out,
you
well.
guys.
It's a very
Yeah.
respectful number. And there will be more than that watching
On
on
Facebook,
Facebook
yeah.
and catch up and everything else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you'd probably had about 50 to 100 people listening to you altogether, which I think is a reasonable audience.
Good.
Of course, for a superstar like yourself, we'd
But
like
this-
1,000, but 100 would do.
Now, what I like to see is the kids, so, and I was too late in getting it out there. I mean, I've got all those grandchildren myself, and they'll all have been
Yeah,
doing something
the
this evening, and I've
children
not
will
got
be
them here.
watching.
Yeah. But they'll be watching it on Facebook, hopefully, and they'll see it later.
I've had my hand up for 10 minutes now. It's getting tired. I'm getting old.
Yeah, we were hoping you would get
Yeah,
tired.
well,
and
we were
go.
hoping you get tired of waiting.
Oh, I just all I want to say, first of all, Rona, there's not enough Rona barber in the world. We need to see more.
Aye.
Thanks for tonight. That was beautiful.
Thank you,
Um,
baby.
There's way too much Babasi in the world. We need to see a lot more. People don't understand that Babasi and I are brothers. And
Yes.
whenever I tell them this, they say, "But how come the two of you are brothers?" I said, "Haven't you ever read the Bible? Don't you know the story of Abel and Cain?" And the only other thing I want to say is, King Louis, where are you? King Louis, I haven't seen you for long.
Hello, Brandon.
There you are. Always makes my heart beat that little bit faster and makes me feel that little bit happier to see you. How you doing, little man?
I'm good. How are you, Brandon?
You're not good, Louis. You're great. You are great.
I
I'm doing
agree with
good.
that. Oh my
I'm
goodness, I agree
doing
with
good.
Baby.
Good to see you, my little brother.
Good to see you, Brandon.
It was great
Okay,
to see him smiling at the stories, Bed, and he enjoyed them.
Oh,
So that made my heart sing
Isn't
as
it
well.
just?
Yeah.
Speaking of smiling,
Always.
Rona, you
Uh-huh.
didn't see it, but one of the reasons why I love watching you tell stories is your smile and the twinkle in your eyes and the little nuances with your voice and your facial features. It's like, whoa.
Careful,
Well,
Rona. He's coming
Yes.
after you. Careful. Rona, careful.
Don't be jealous, Baden.
He just thinks because he lent me his phone when I was in Morocco that he's got some call on me, but Well,
I'm glad I was able to do that.
but do you know, on my screen, my nose keeps turning white. Can you see that? Do you
Well,
not see that, or
There's
is it
a
just
little
me that
dot
can see it?
in the
Yeah.
in the
Well,
middle.
see, well, I was telling, that was making me smile because I thought any minute now that's going to turn red.
Well,
Rona, as long as
it's
my
the
nose
ice
doesn't turn
queen.
white,
It's
we're
the,
okay.
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Well, thanks very
Rona,
much
that
for
was a
coming on, guys.
beautiful set. Beautiful set.
that
Thank
The
you.
was
only reason I
fantastic.
came here is the only other Scots person that I know is Donald Nelson. And me and him have hung out so many times. And that tight bugger's never put his hand in his pocket. And then Rona said, everybody who comes on tonight, she's going to donate £1.
That's right.
And I thought, finally, I'm going to see a Scots person spend some money.
And did he come on? I don't know. He might have been on Facebook. I don't know. But John will
I'll
be
catch
able
up
to
with
tell me
Donald.
that.
I'll catch up with him separately. Don't worry.
Well, I think I've got a count of 14, but I hope there's a lot more. I hope there's 100. I'll quite happily pay 100 quid to the Gaza funds if there's people have come on. So
Plenty more.
that would be fantastic.
Well,
Beautiful night.
it's
You
been a
can let me
wonderful
know.
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Thank you, audience. Thank you, anyone who might be watching and not gone onto Zoom. Have a wonderful Christmas, everybody. Come and see us before Christmas at either Worldwide Story Round on Sunday or Stories for Peace on Christmas Eve. Meanwhile,
Thank you
farewell
so
from the
much.
World Storytelling Cafe. And of course, Waleed, thank you as always for flying the magic carpet.
And Lucy, I'm desperately trying to get some dates together to come over early in the new year. Would that be possible? Are you still there? Maybe
Yes,
you're not there.
I'm here. Sorry, it's I'm in the car on
Oh,
the
right,
road.
darling. Sorry.
No. Yeah, of course, absolutely. And Evita's going to be there, so it will be you won't be on your own. I think Baden's going as well. So
I'm coming over sometime between end of Jan and, well, towards the end of Jan and mid-Feb.
Well, that's the
I'm
kind
having
of
some
time
work,
I'm looking at as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
brilliant.
having some work done here, so I've got to kind of juggle builders but I'll be there.
Well, it's bit.
Brilliant.
You're a busy man being retired. This retirement is just so exhausting.
Shut up and check your emails, John.
Hey, John, I've never worked so hard since I retired. Can I tell you?
Tell me about it.
It is.
When people know you're retired, they're like, "Oh, you can come and do this. Oh, you can come and do that." Yeah.
Ah, that's why I've avoided regular employment my whole life. Right.
So thank you very much, guys. Again, I've enjoyed
Great
that
night.
tonight, and
See you.
I look forward
Merry
to seeing
Christmas,
you again soon.
everyone. Bye.
Merry Christmas
Merry
and good night.
Christmas.
Merry
Thank you, Rona.
Christmas.
And
Ciao.
to all a good
Go,
night.
Happy
Thank you.
Kwanzaa.
Merry
Norman, I
Christmas.
can't see you, but I know you're there. Ciao, Biden. Ciao, Babasi.
Ciao.
Bye.
Should
Hi,
be
Good night,
everybody.
Rona. Love you
Hope to
all.
see you next Friday.
Yes.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Baden, go home. I love Baden. We really do love and respect each
We
other.
do, we do. Yeah, we
Yeah,
love everybody. We are lovers. Storytellers are lovers.
Yes,
We're not
yes.
fighters. We are lovers. Stephen, I'm going to phone you, sweetheart. I'll phone you in a minute, okay? All right. Don't know if you
He
can
doesn't
hear
know how
me.
to unmute.
He's
All right,
getting
good
some
folk.
dental teeth, get dental work done, and we're going to Disney next week. And I was hoping it was going to be the week after next, actually. So I hope they've got his teeth ready for him by then because he's just got a big row of gums.
Euro Disney or Disney in the
Paris,
States?
Paris, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's where we're going. We've been before. Stephen, that's his love. He just loves it. He meets Marvel and Captain America and all them, you know. All right, son. I'll phone you in a wee while. I can't hear you, darling. Anaya, can you put the volume on for him, please? Thank you.
Hi, Mum.
Did you like the stories? You've heard them
I
loads of
absolutely
times.
loved it. I absolutely loved it, Mum.
Good.
I did.
Okay.
I'll finish my dinner now, and then I'll give you a call then.
Okay, son.
All right, Mum.
I'll speak to you then. Love
See
you.
you then. Love you, Mum. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you, Waleed. I know that you're going to close this at any moment. So let me say my standard. See out. I'll tell you about that, Rona.
Yeah. What's that? See out.
Yeah. I
I
don't even know
didn't
how I get.
delete this now.
Can you switch it off now for Aminia? Thank you.
All right.
That's my son's support worker at the moment.
Ah.
Yeah.
Leave. Sorry.
You just put, if you go to the bottom corner, you'll see leave meeting. That's it. Yeah. So what were you going to say about
No, I forget how it got started, actually, now that I think about it. But it's all Waleed's fault.
All right.
And I ended something by saying see out.
Ah,
And now every time I sign out on a worldstorytellingcafe.com event, I have to say see out, as in Baba C, as in C short for my last name calendar. So once again, see out.
Oh.
All
Thank you
right.
very much, Waleed, for hosting, and I'll see you when I'm over there, hopefully. Take care. Okay.
Everyone take care.
Bye-bye, love. There we go.
Ooh, excuse me. Later, Waleed.